What's up, YouTube? Welcome back for part 5 of the timing belt snappy exhaust valve bendy video. In this video I'm going to finalize the installation of this EJ253 engine into the Outback here, and we'll get the key turned and see what this thing runs like. I hope I can get this thing installed quickly enough because I gotta end my evening tonight, but if I can get it sitting down and back into the car and come back to it after work tomorrow, then I should be able to finish it up. So let's see how it goes. So I don't know if you guys can see actually how I'm getting this to move all along. So you want to have a good hand on the engine. Always know where it is. Last place you want it is in your lap. You get down under here with the bar, and you just slowly pry against the floor to work the leg in, and eventually it'll start pointing right over top of the car. As that happens, start pulling back out on the front, so you can get a little bit more turn-in room past the wheels. After a bit of tossing and wrestling with the engine crane, you can finally get the engine over top of the bay. And ever so slowly. Not fast, not fast. Slowly. And I get to about here, start touching stuff, and I'll lock it back up. Just have a quick look at things. The AC lines are pretty tight over here, but we're passing by. And I'm just looking at the engine, it's off-centered a little bit. And with this strap and a little bit of weight off the strap, usually you can grab these boxers and give them a little twist, just to straighten them out enough so those two bottom bolts or studs will go right into the transmission. And we're very close. To the point where we're in. So I got one bolt in, it's hand tight. The whole seam of the block, you want to make sure the whole seam of the block meets up with the transmission. You don't want to be like cockeyed and think that you have it and lay it down and find out the dowel hung you up on one side or something. So, and just lower the engine. Usually it falls right into place. If not, you can give it a little wiggle. But just have a look underneath and make sure those mount studs come down through. So yeah, it's the following day and I'm back home from work. Had one of those days where it just did 1,000 things and didn't seem to get anywhere with stuff. So hopefully I can get this accomplished, finish it up, get it out my garage. So yeah, the engine is sitting in place. The mounts are set down into the subframe, and pretty much I just got to start mounting up stuff at the bottom, top. I am going to start with the top. I've got the car sitting back up on jack stands. Just makes it a little easier on my back. Long-term mechanics end up with a bad back, just always hunching over engine bays. And I mean, cars have only gotten smaller, lower to the ground. and so having them jacked up or sitting up a little bit higher on the hoist makes it very comfortable to work. I wouldn't say very comfortable, actually. So yeah, I've got to go around and starts putting in all the bell bolts and the 2 nuts on the bottom studs, and get the torque converter turned around, get the throttle body off so I can access the bolts for the torque converter and get them all set in there, tightened. Just go around and start hooking up all the accessories, you know, setting the power steering pump and AC and alternator and whatnot. I like to leave the heater hose. I know there's a lot of water in there now, but these things have a little bit of trouble bleeding air sometimes. I like to make sure there's tons of water in the heater core, and as I last feed on the hoses while the system's already pretty much filled, and because it just gets an air bubble trap in there, and it, you know, when you're trying to bleed out the system, it can be a pain sometimes. But that's my secret to doing it. Basically, it's just going to be reverse the removal procedure to reinstall. So it's just all the parts that I took off. I'm just going to end up putting them back on. And sequence doesn't necessarily matter most of the time, but I mean, there's a few things like you can't tighten the alternator belt before the AC belt because they'll never get the AC belt on. So there's a few things that you have to just be careful. And I mean, if it's your first time, you might have to take something back off to do something correctly. So yeah, well, I'll get the camera set kind of back up there hopefully and get these bell bolts tightened up and stuff.
Slowly, child is slowly taken.
apologies. Completely forgot about the camera when I went to go start this thing, so it was quite hard starting. It took about 3 cranks. I started to wonder if there was a problem. I actually came over to the ignition coil to make sure it was plugged in, and then on the 3rd crank, it just boom, it just lit right up. So it smoked quite a bit, which also had me concerned. But as you can see, it's just perfect. It's not blowing anything anymore. It wasn't running rough or anything. It ran really good right from the get-go. Maybe just an excessive amount of fuel for me trying to actually get it to run with those exhaust valves bent and actually driving up the driveway. It probably just flooded the cats with fuel. Whatever it is, it's cleared out, and it's running really well. I'm just letting it warm up. There's no noises anywhere. Everything sounds good. I'm probably about just getting up to operating temperature already. I'm just letting the air come out of the coolant, and really just to finish it off, I'll just make sure that the thermostat opens, top of the coolant, shut her down, get it off the jack stands, check my oil. Actually, before the jack stands come out from underneath of it, there's a skid plate I have to put back, and then basically just go on my road test and make sure everything's good, check engine light stays out, and performs well. So all in all, it's a technical job, although like the actual re of the engine, not so much. There's only so much to take apart, so many connections and hoses, and that thing just kind of plucks out of there. It's not even like a front wheel drive car where, you know, the engine and transmission got to come out, or you just kind of squeeze the engine out, or Subaru is just the way the being set up longitudinal makes it very easy to get that engine out of there. As usual, if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. Show your support and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave your questions, comments further down below, and I'll see you in the next one.